together. Me personally, whenever I have an agent who has a first time putting in a listing, I like to just kind of share that experience with everyone so that everyone has a chance to just kind of watch and learn and just kind of know what you're in for. And I promise you, it's really not that hard. Everything is very simple, but it's always best to, kind of be prepared and know what you're in for before you get started. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So first thing we do, obviously, is go ahead and log into the MLS. You should already have your listing paperwork and everything completed, signed, executed, and returned back to the seller. Let's see. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on Add Edit. For those of you who are new, some boards will tell you that you only are required to take 2 of the 3 MLS classes, but I will tell you, you want to take all 3 of them immediately. Just get it done. Technically, I guess you kind of don't have to do your AddEdit class until you have a listing. However, what happens is you have a listing, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get this going. And then you have to take the class. Then it takes a couple of days for MFR to actually process that. And then the broker has to give permission for you to have that ability. So just be prepared. You want to get that done now before you have a listing so you're ready to go. So we went ahead and we clicked Add Edit. Once you have completed the Add Edit course through the MLS, that will give you permission here. If ever you have trouble getting into this, it's probably because you have not completed that course, so they don't have it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on Add New. Then here's going to be some options for you. If it's a commercial property, a residential property, income, land, rental. The property we're going to be doing today for George is going to be a residential. The easiest thing that I found on this screen here, just remember a lot of times less is more, short and sweet, simple. So for the property address, I'm just going to put in the number, which is 1. And the street name, that's it. Kind of like when you're using your speed bar. Where you just put in the number and the name, 106. Okay, and then of course the county, which is Pinellas, and I'm just reading this off of the real list and the old MLS sheet that was in here. Okay. All right, so this is basically the county information here. I'm going to go ahead and click fill. Now, Realist, we have had situations in the past with other agents where Realist didn't quite match exactly to the property tax records. So not a bad idea just to be proactive and compare the 2 side by side and make sure it is giving correct and accurate information. We have had information where the subdivision name actually came up a little bit differently, and it was a very well-known subdivision. I believe it was something like 7 Oaks, but it was coming up as a slightly different name. So you really need to pay attention to those details, particularly to subdivision names, because think about when you do a search, right? Somebody wants to look in this area or they want to be specifically in 7 Oaks. If that subdivision name does not line up correctly, it's going to get completely missed in all of these searches. So we do need to be a little detailed when we're doing this. All right, so when coming into here, basically you're going to have all these tabs right here at the top. And we're just going to basically click on each tab and put in the information needed. The very first tab here is going to be our listing tab. So this is where we're going to put in the pertinent information to the listing here. So George, you had this signed on 5/3/19. Okay, so one of the things that I personally do, and you can always have your listing agreement edited, but in our personal agreement in the back under additional provisions, technically you guys, we are supposed to have a listing in the MLS within, I believe, 2 days. However, that almost never happens because usually they still are doing something, they want to fix something, they want to make something pretty. It's not always photo ready. Plus, also we have to wait for the photos. So in additional provisions, one of the things that I suggest is putting in here that seller agrees that property will be placed in the MLS by X date. So figure out how long it takes them to do whatever they need to do to have it photo ready. Give another couple of days to have the photographer out there, edit, get that back, and give yourself plenty of time. You can always throw in an extra couple of days on there. As long as it's in there by that date, that kind of covers you. Also with that as well is that it also helps to save on days on market. I don't know if any of you have ever noticed a brand new listing comes on the market, but yet it says it has 5 days. That's because of the date that the listing agreement was signed that they had put in there. So generally, I'm going to suggest to you is to add that little clause so it gives you some leeway in getting some things done. And then also the day you do enter it is what you can actually put in here as your list date. Because if we just put in there the contract date without that verbiage and the additional provisions, then if it's a week later, it's going to show that it's got 7 days on the market, and that's not what we want to do. So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and enter in today's date. And actually what's funny is George had the exact situation of the seller was not quite ready with all the repairs that they were going to do. So I'm just going to put this date, dummy this in here for today. But George, before you make it go live, after you get that updated on your listing agreement for the new date, before you make it live, change it to that day so that it will start up at 0. List price. George, I'm going to have you read this stuff to me with the list price. 195. You don't need to put in a dollar sign. You don't need to be cutting commas. You need to put a period 00. And what is the true expiration date on your listing agreement? The expiration date on first page? Is this any kind of a short sale auction, or is it just one person selling their house to another person? Yep. Okay, so under special provisions, that would be no, meaning there's nothing special about it. It's not a short sale, it's not an auction, it's not a foreclosure. It's just one person selling their home to another person. Listing type, and just, let me see your thing here. I'm going to go over you guys. So in case you ever get lost or you forget, actually right on your listing agreement, it does state right on here, exclusive right to sell on paragraph number 1. So in case you get confused, that is right there. Exclusive right to sell. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Peter. Listing service type, you are doing a full service, correct? Okay. Representation, the seller is represented. And you guys, you'll notice some of these fields are in yellow, some are not. The ones that are in yellow are required. There are going to be some sections as we go through this regarding things like interior that aren't necessarily required fields, but I do suggest you put in as much information as possible because sometimes people are searching in a very detailed manner. So, of course, in those situations, the more details you can put in there, usually the better, because it's going to help put you into more refined searches. Number of floors in the unit, is this a single story? Is it a 2-story?
1 story.
1 story, okay. And actually, I'm going to do one extra step here for you guys. I'm going to show you kind of where and how to toggle back to all this information. So for those of you who have an HP, you can just simply hover over Home, right-click, open a new tab. So what I've done now is I've opened another MLS tab here. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the address again because I do know it was in the MLS in the past. But if not, you can also go directly to tax, real list, put in the address there. But I'm going to show you a little shortcut. So because we do know this one was in the MLS in the past, I'm just going to click on this one. Excuse me. And then from here, in your listing under tax ID, you're going to have a blue hyperlink. See how that's blue? I can go ahead and click on that, and that's going to take me to the most current real list information or your tax information. Even though that's an old listing, it doesn't matter. You click on it, we'll pull the most accurate information here. So in a real list here, you should be familiar with how to read this document. And over here under characteristics, right here it says stories 1. So it's 1 story. So in case you're ever not quite sure. In unit 1. Okay, latitude and longitude. Obviously, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to click Get Latitude and Longitude from Address. And then you do always just want to kind of zoom in a little bit and make sure, does that look about accurate? Okay, you can always adjust that pin as well. Sometimes you just have a little bit of trouble if you're doing vacant land and has like a 0 address. Then you have to go in and actually kind of pinpoint it there, which you would do with the set latitude and longitude. School districts, do you happen to know the school districts on this one, George? Now, we do have as well the old MLS listing. However, I'm going to advise you guys that you always want to get it from the source. You want to make sure that you're providing correct and accurate information as much as possible. Because a lot of times what happens is people might guess on the schools, or they might just copy someone else with inaccurate information. So you have inaccurate information copied repeatedly. So you do want to double check on that. A great source is a website called greatschools.org, O-R-G. That's actually a great reference website to refer your clients to as well if ever they have questions about schools. Is this a good school or not? Well, let me give you this website and you can check them out for yourself and read the reviews. So this is information I would suggest putting in here. Make sure you look that up. And what else? Okay, so that's about it on this page. So now when we're done with this page, generally your first reaction is to always go back to the bottom and hit go or submit. Don't do that. If you do, basically what's going to happen is up here you're going to get all these red exclamation points for all the information that you're missing. So while we're going through this, we're just going to go ahead and click on the next tab at the top. Now, George, does this property have a pool?
No pool.
No pool. Okay. If there were a pool, obviously you'd want to identify, even though this is not a required field, you'd want to identify what kinds of pool it had, features, especially if it's saltwater, enclosed, if it's heated, things like that you definitely want to include. Property style, just a single family residence?
Single family.
Okay. Front exposure, do we know what that is? Okay, probably not. Okay, no worries. All right, so here we can go ahead and go to the old listing, or you can Google, put it in the map. And this is the front door, yep. So it would be
east. Front door faces east.
Yes, yes. Okay, I always get confused as if you're standing in the front door looking out, or if you're at the road looking in. But yes, so it would be if you're standing in the front door looking out, so that would be east. Okay. New construction, no, so it's already pre-built. Other things like this, like again, this is not a required field, but property description. If you're on a corner unit, you know, if you're on a cul-de-sac, things like that would definitely be a positive that you would want to emphasize in that property. If you do happen to know the builder information, it's up to you if you want to put that in. Things like view. George, is there any kind of view from the property? Like, are you looking at a park? No. Okay. Most of them don't. Lot features. Is it a cul-de-sac or corner lot? Conservation area? Hilly, green belt? Are there sidewalks? No subdivision? No sidewalks? Okay. Is it any kind of a private street or just a typical subdivision that's maintained by the county?
That's maintained by the county.
Okay. Paved streets, not a dirt road?
Yes.
Okay, so that's positive we can put in there. Is it on a dead-end street?
No.
No, okay. All right, other structures, is there anything like a barn, gazebo, greenhouse, dog run, outdoor kitchen, shed?
No.
Architectural style, I generally leave that one alone because what I might call a craftsman might be different from what somebody else calls a craftsman, and that's when they can kind of get lost a little in search criteria. Vegetation, are there oak trees? Mature landscaping, are there trees that have been there for a little while?
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. Do you know if there's any fruit trees on the property?
What?
Fruit trees?
No.
It seems silly, but that's actually for a lot of people who come down to Florida. They always generally will say, I want a palm tree in the front yard and a fruit tree in the backyard. Yeah. So if you happen to show a property to someone that's not from Florida, I would point that out because you never know, that actually might be a great selling feature for them. So there are trees there. Yeah, we have trees. Okay, patio and porch, this is other important information, even though it's not required. So any of these that kind of fit a covered deck, enclosed front porch, patio, rear patio, is it screened? Is there a side porch?
No, it's just a small pad.
Okay, it's just like a little concrete pad on the back. Okay, so that would be a patio. Okay. Foundation is probably going to be slab, right?
Yeah.
Slab. All right. Next, exterior conditions, or sorry, exterior construction. That will be here where it says block stucco exterior under characteristics. which is what most homes are typically in Florida. If it's a 2-story, then generally, if it's not a brand newer construction, it's usually going to be concrete block and then frame on the top as well. Roof style. So this shows it as having a built-up roof. Is it a built-up, or is it like mostly like a lower flat roof, or I have it here. Okay. Over here it shows. See. A lot of times you can look at the photo as well. Do you recall if it was a shingle roof? Like, did they put shingles on top of the build-up? Yeah, let me see. This is the most recent one here. This is 3460. 3460. Sometimes we can also go back and look at the photos as well. Those ones are there. Yeah, polished shingle roof. Oops. We're going to call this one a shingle roof. Exterior features, is it fenced? Are there French doors? Is there an irrigation system?
Yes, there's French doors in the back.
These are great features. A lot of people do search for homes specifically that are fenced if they have pets. Is there any kind of, you said no sidewalks, outdoor shower, outdoor kitchen? Is there lighting outside? Is there a sprinkler system? Any of those things? Storage?
No.
Does one have a garage?
No garage.
Okay. No garage. Is there a carport?
No.
No. Okay. Now, a little key thing to know when you go into listing appointments, you go in there expecting to get the deal. You go in there prepared with paperwork and ready to close it. Some of the silly little things that they now have in the MLS are things like the garage dimensions. So for some reason, this is now important in our MLS listing. So think about those things. Make sure to be prepared with a tape measure when you go out there, because you are required as well to measure some rooms while you're there. And it's always a little embarrassing when we forget, we're all excited, we got that listing, we're running out the door, we're ready to start ordering photos and putting it in the MLS. And as we're putting in the MLS, we realize we forgot room sizes. So then we have to call the owner and ask them to possibly measure some rooms, or we have to go back out there again. So just kind of be aware of that as well. Attached garage, no, there's no garage. And then of course, pay attention while you're in the garage if there's anything like a side door, additional parking, things like that. Okay, so we got that all filled out. Next one, land and tax. A lot of this is going to pre-populate from the real list for you, which is very convenient. But again, I do want to encourage you to also double check that against the actual Pasco County or Pinellas County Property Tax Assessor's Office. Are there any additional parcels, like extra lots with total acreage? Actually, let me show you where to get that information. So on here, your lot size under lot acreage, again, all this has been under characteristics, is 0.1153. Okay. Okay, total acreage. Also, put it right here too. Okay, so lot size 0.12. So under the category, that would actually be up to 10,000 square foot, because it's not quite a quarter acre. A quarter acre would be 0.25, so it'd be the one underneath of that. Flood zone X, that's good. Now, is this property currently homestead regarding their taxes? Is their primary residence that they filed homestead for?
No, this is the best one.
No, okay, so that would be no. And that's a good thing to pay attention to when you're showing properties and the client, the buyer says something about the taxes being higher. Immediately, I would look to see if it is a homestead property. Because if it's not homestead, it is going to be at the highest tax rate. Is there a CDD? This is an older property. So And if there is a CDD on this property, when you can always double check and confirm the HOA, I always suggest you get things directly from the HOA if there is one involved regarding if there's a CDD. You can also check the property appraisers or the tax. The county tax collector's office. That's what I was trying to think of. It will tell you what the CDD amount is and who it's payable to, which you. Next one, interior. Oh, this is. Oh no. Okay. So sometimes this will be populated for you, not always. So you do need to pay attention. Also, sometimes you'll notice that as you're walking through the property, there might actually be 4 bedrooms, but in the county records it reflects 3. Sometimes there are last minute changes from when the plans were originally submitted to be built to the actual final product, and it's not always updated. So for me, I'm going to put in there the information that is accurate. So if there are 4 true bedrooms in that home, I'm actually going to put it in here as a 4-bedroom. So how many bedrooms is this?
2 bedroom.
2 bedroom, 1 full bath.
Yep.
Are there any half baths?
No.
Okay, not just make sure to put 0 here or that will flag you. Is there a fireplace? Typically would be, if so, in here. So we have characteristics is where we found a lot of the basic information. Features is where it would say if there was a pool, different things like that. If there's a fireplace, so I don't see a fireplace here. Was one added? No. Okay. Square foot heated store. So square foot heated 860. So let's double check. That's what that says here. Yes, 860. Now total building square foot is 1020. There's a difference. The heated square foot is the portion of the home inside that is heated and aired centrally. And then the total square footage is going to include the entire, basically the base of the home. So 1020 is that. Now in here, it does not automatically populate. I still like to put that in there myself personally. So like the garage was converted, if there was a porch that was converted.
Porch and home was converted.
Okay. So that's something you definitely want to look into. So was the garage converted or no?
No.
Okay. So if a porch was converted, the next thing you want to do is you want to talk to the owner to confirm whether or not they pulled permits for that. Yeah. So there's different ways of doing things. The correct way would be to put it in as it matches with the county records, because when you have an appraisal done, depending on the kind of financing that they're having, a lot of times that will not count. Well, it will not count as full value if it's not permitted. Okay, because it was not done. You don't know if it was done to code, so it would be valued the square footage at a lesser value, and then that lesser value is based on the quality of the construction that was done, per my conversations with many appraisals. Now, in the case that let's say they do have an extra 300 square foot that was converted. It was done by a professional. They just maybe did or did not pull permits, or they converted a garage. There's a couple different ways that you could do that. If it was total square footage, yeah, I don't know if that last person did that correct. So we need to find out about the permit. Sorry. So there's a couple different ways you could do this. One is you always need to make sure that you disclose. So if in fact the entire home, oh wait, there was no garage. Okay, so then if that porch was actually converted, that would be the 1020 square foot. So you could market it in here as 1020 square foot if that is truly all heated. However, if you can't find any records of a permit being pulled and that was not done the correct way, then in the description you need to disclose that the tax records reflect 860 square foot. However, there is a garage that was converted and has central air conditioning, or is air conditioning with a window unit, whatever it is. So this way you are fully disclosing. It is still the buyer's due diligence to verify all this information. But of course, we do want to try to get as many hits as possible in the MLS. So you're probably going to get more hits with a 1020 square footage over an 860. But again, just make sure that you're fully transparent with that information, because you never want to be misleading to the public at all, ever. So in here, I'm just going to do this quoting the tax records. You can go back and edit this after you have your conversation with the seller. So this information I did provide or was pulled from public records. Square footage, total stores was public records. I got that from Realist. Appliances included. So is there just the normal fridge, microwave, stove?
Yeah.
Okay.
The,
Is there a dishwasher?
only dishwasher.
Okay. Is there going to be disposal under the sink?
I believe so.
Okay. So another thing I suggest too is that you keep a notebook with you while you're doing this, because you are gonna always, I don't care how long you've been doing this, I always have at least one question that I forget and I miss to ask the seller. So I would have a little notebook out and write down something like disposable, just so you know to go back and ask the seller. You're gonna have probably a couple of things at the end of the CD. Is he gonna leave the washer and dryer?
There's no washer and dryer.
No washer and dryer. Okay. What else do we have here? Range. Some people, they're not used to it being called a range, but like a regular stove where it has the burners on the top and the oven inside. That would be a range. If there's a range hood, is the piece that goes above that. But sometimes you turn on it has like an exhaust or a light.
Yeah, there's gonna be a.
There's a hood. Okay. This property's in building remodeled. Refrigerator is going to stay with the property.
Yeah.
And is there any kind of like water filtration system, softener, or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right. Interior features. Is there any built-in features? Does it really have high ceilings? It's an older house. Are there ceiling fans that will stay? Normally, before we start doing this, you usually would like to have the photos, but it's always good. You can go back and just refer to the photos. Okay, I do see one there. So light fixture. Okay, so it's definitely sponsored. Is there any kind of crown molding, eat-in space in the kitchen? Is it a kitchen family room combo, a living room, dining room combo? Open, would you call it an open floor plan?
This is open floor plan.
Okay. Skylight, what kind of counters? Is it like solid surface counters? Like
Yeah,
it's fun. Granite, okay, so what's a stone? Okay, so stone counters would be granite. Is it split bedroom, meaning there's no shared walls between the master or the other? They're kind of like, no, they're all together. Okay, it's a small house. Are they solid wood cabinets or like Formica? Do you know?
I believe they're gonna be wood. They're
Okay.
still.
Okay, so just put a note to make sure to go back and update that. And by the way, you guys, a great tip is that per my last conversation with the MLS, and again, remember things always change, but per my last conversation with the MLS, when you start inputting a listing like this, it is going to stay active in there for 30 days. If you go over 30 days, it will delete and you got to do it all over again. But this way gives you time to kind of get it started. You'll see there's a lot of little things to it. Is there walk-in closets, window treatments that would stay, wet bar? No. Okay. Laundry. Is there laundry inside the house?
Yes.
Okay, so inside laundry. Is it in the kitchen, the garage?
Kind of that front porch area.
Front porch area.
Closet.
Okay, I'm just gonna say inside. Are there any like solar screens, thermal windows, blinds?
Yes.
Okay. Flooring. What kind of flooring is it?
It's gonna be wood laminate.
Throughout the whole house?
Hmm?
Throughout the whole house?
Yes.
Okay. If there's a security system, that's always a great feature to add in there. Utilities. Let's see. They had public sewer previously. So just double check, because some of these older neighborhoods, it can be septic, which is different. It's a freestanding thing in the ground that you have to maintain. Sewer is what's connected to the city with the water generally, but some of these old communities might have a well or even have public water and septic. So, okay, so you're saying it is. Okay, so public. Do you know if there's a street light out there?
No.
Is there any natural gas?
No.
Okay, is there cable connected?
Not currently, but
But like it's
where
ran.
available, yeah,
Okay.
it's available.
Okay. Excuse me. Water you said was public. Sewer is public. Sewer. These are the little questions too that you want to make sure that you ask in your listing appointments. There's some things you always forget, but definitely things like, is there a security system? Is there a sprinkler system? Is there anything like a water softener, water treatment? Is it sewer? Is it septic? Is it hooked up to the city water? Just little things you want to ask in your appointment there, as well as an important one, which is Mr. Sellers, the washer and dryer going to be staying at the property. Also little things like curtains, where technically the rod would be an attachment, because if you removed it, it would cause damage. But the curtain itself can sometimes get into confusion between buyers and sellers at closing. So I have had that situation. So I like to be as detailed and proactive as possible and ask as many of these little detailed things now and write that down in my notes so I can always refer back to it when I am inputting the listing later on. Heating source, is it central or is it a window?
Yeah.
Central, okay. Air conditioning, central, okay. All right, see, we're zipping this. The more familiar you get with it, the faster it will go. So again, we discussed room sizes. There are particular rooms that are required to be in the MLS. I won't know until I mess this up, but I believe it is the master bedroom, the kitchen, the living room or family room, whatever you want to call it. And I'm thinking there is one more. So those three. Okay. All right. Family room. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and say, you do have to put in real numbers. Previously, you could dummy it and just put one by one. But you have to put real numbers in here. Now, we do have to have a minimum of those requirements. So I'm just going to put those in here now. So you'll need to remember to go back and do measurements with those. And then of course they have additional features here that you can add in which you want to, because if it is something that's a bonus, it's going to help sell the property. You definitely want to take a second and put that in there. Master. Okay, so there's no water access with this property. If there was, this is where you would put it, just to help you guys identify some of the differences, is that if a property has water access, you can have water access like the community. It can be a waterfront community where you can access the water. Then there's water view, which is, of course, you peek out the window, but there's no actual connection to the water in the property. And then there is, so you can have a community that's water access. You can also have the property be water access, meaning that water does touch the property and you can access it. Then, of course, if there are any extra features with the water, like a dock, a lift, any of those, you definitely want to put those in there. And then water frontage, the property actually does connect to the water. It will want you to identify, of course, what kind of water it is, and then, of course, the water frontage. Water frontage, generally, you can go into Realist. It will pull up in Google Maps, I think, and it will show you a red outline of the property kind of schematics, and you can tell on there. Easy one. Green, if there's any green features with the property, huge selling feature, you want to make sure you put those in there. Did he do any green features that you're aware of? Okay. Owner information, up to you. I'm not really a super fan of having my client's information here. You can just put owner of record on here. It is a regular single family residence, so we're going to be fee simple. Definitely do not put in the owner's information here. Some people, they see that, they instantly put it. Please don't. Existing lease or tenant, it's vacant right now. Okay. If there is an existing lease or tenant, make sure you get a copy of that from the owner, because you will want to have that available for when you get an offer. You'll need to submit that to the other side. Okay. All right, community information. Again, I want you guys to go get it from the horse's mouth directly. You can really easily Google Seven Oaks HOA Management Company. That is actually a requirement now in the MLS, as if we didn't have to get enough information. So it is required that you have the association contact name, email, website, must all be entered in here correctly. Like I said, a lot of times you can get that online. Also, if there is an HOA, you're going to have an HOA disclosure that you're going to be covering with the owner during the time of the listing agreement. So get that information from them then. Ask them to go ahead and pull that up or provide any information they have so that you can put that in there. And get, again, the HOA information directly from them. Don't just copy an old MLS listing, which is probably inaccurate. Because if you actually notice, if you type in a subdivision, you'll probably notice almost every single listing in there has a different price, right? For the HOA amounts, you'll see almost every single one has a different price. You're gonna make sure you have the most accurate information in there. HOA, this one was no. If so, you would want to put that in there. Definitely community features. Does it have anything special with the community?
It actually has a community pool.
Okay. All right. So then, where is that section? HOA required. We're going to put optional. Okay. So HOA, community association. Okay. So there is one, but it's optional.
Well, yeah, it's for the community pool. It's not really an HOA.
Okay. All right. So it says HOA of community association. Okay. I'll let you kind of figure out how to put that one in there. HOA fees optional, which is wonderful. If they do decide to do it, how much is it?
$230 a year.
Community features. There's a pool. Okay, what else was there? Just a pool? Okay. Okay. Housing for older persons, if that's a 55 and up or 62 and up. No. Also, this one here, this is another thing to make notes of, that when you're in your listing appointment, at the end you're doing the paperwork. You also want to try to ask them things if they're already aware of, if there's any rental restrictions or any pet restrictions. Most people will know at least the pet restrictions. So even though this is not in yellow, it generally will come back as one that you have to enter. And again, this is information you can get from the HOA. Can the property be leased?
Yep.
Okay. Are you aware of any lease restrictions?
No.
Okay. It's an older community, so just double check, but I doubt you need any permission. Be aware some communities, especially if you work out in Hudson and Beacon Woods, last I recall, some subdivisions out there like that do require that you own the property for 2 years first before you're able to rent it. And they do that to kind of control home ownership. Okay, and good idea, and again, I'm all about CYA, cover your butt, is in here. You can just add buyer, do, diligence. Okay, I was wrong. Okay. E's everything. Okay, due diligence and go. City. I'm going to paste that there, and I'm going to paste that there. Please start your diligence and verify all info with HOA, city, and county. Okay. Oh, because I didn't do HOA in capitals. I think I want to use the word hot. Okay. Realtor. Okay, here's where most people get lost the most. All right. So financing available. Do you feel that this property would qualify for FHA?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the seller open to doing FHA conventional cash, the normal? Okay. There is another one in here that's very common, not really the most common, but that possibly some properties out in this area here could qualify for, such as USDA. There is a website you can go to, and you can literally put in an address, and it would tell you if the property would qualify for USDA or not. All these are boxes that you're going to check in your listing agreement as well, right above the additional provisions or additional terms. And the additional one in there was something about seller financing. So if the seller would like to hold financing, so if they own the property free and clear, and they would like to hold a note for the buyer, that would be an option. Typically, you are going to use mostly the FHA, VA, in conventional or cash. Yes. Realtor information. If you are a licensed agent and you own the property, you must disclose to the public. You cannot deceive them. You have to let them know you're a professional. This goes into a lot of detail about other, usually if you do have like your seller's disclosure, your HOA disclosure, your CDD disclosure, I just check docs available, just so it says, hey, we do have these documents, instead of checking each individual one. Realtor information confidential. If it's vacant, you just want them to go to the site, or if it's like land, you can just put go to site. If it is in foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, if you need tenant approval. Vacant, that's up to you, an optional button if you would like to put it in there. Sometimes if you just have a vacant property, it's an investment property, the owner just wants to get people in and out of there as quick as possible to get it sold, you put in there it's vacant. People know it's an easy show. But some owners, for security reasons, they might not want the property advertised even to other realtors as being vacant. Also, to the situation with that is sometimes if you want to require the agent to confirm a showing with you first, so you know who's there and when, which is a great idea. You'll want to not put vacant on there, because a lot of realtors, they just see that and they just go there. They won't even do the showing time to schedule an appointment, so you know who's going there and you can track showings. So just a little nugget there. Disclosures, again, if you have any of these specific disclosures, you can check them off. Do confirm that all this information here is correct and up to date. If you do notice that it has an out-of-date email address or a phone number, go into your settings and update that. If you have any trouble, you can call the MLS directly and they can walk you through that. If you do have a co-agent, let's say you're on a team or you're working with someone together on this deal, you can put their information here. Compensation, okay. So this one, George, what was your total commission you're charging?
Total commission is 5. So
5, okay.
We're giving the seller 3.
And you're going to give the selling agent 3%. That's very, very gracious of you. Okay, so in that case, now this is where it gets a little confusing, so keep up with me. Single agent and transaction broker, right? A lot of people get very confused with this. I've had agents almost lose their entire commission because they thought transaction broker meant the total commission and single agent was how much they were offering out. So they'd actually put 6% commission under transaction broker. And luckily, the agent on the other side, the buyer's agent, they knew that this was a newer agent and, you know, did the right thing and went to them at the end as they're doing their commission disbursements and said, oh, I think you made a mistake. You know, and did acknowledge that to her so we could get that signed off and corrected. However, just understand that if you put in there 6%, you're publicly advertising what you're willing to pay. And once you go under contract with that home and you realize it's a mistake, you can't always take that back because that's what you publicly advertise that you were going to. That agent very well could have held her to that. So very careful with this. And if ever you guys, don't be shy to ask a broker to review this for you while it's in incomplete status as well before you go live. And I will show you how to do that just to check those little details because we all have Monday mistakes sometimes and we do want to make sure you get paid and don't give away all your commission. So under single agents, you're going to be offering out 3%. So in here, we need to do the number 3 followed by the percent sign. Now, it's not quite so much tradition now. There used to be an MLS fee in there. Now, some agents do still charge an MLS fee to kind of cover some of their processing fees if they use a transaction coordinator or things like that. In that case, if you do decide to charge an MLS fee, it needs to be in their specific way. So it would need to be in with no spaces. We do 3% sign minus $sign. And let's say you're going to do 250. Okay, that's how that would go. It has to be in there specifically like that. Over here, transaction broker. So here's where people get confused. Single agents and transaction broker. As you guys know, you are a transaction broker, otherwise, unless otherwise stated in writing. So all of your transaction brokers, unless otherwise stated in writing. Single agent is just for those who have had that change in writing and they're designated as a single agent. Either way, what this is saying is that you are going to pay a buyer's agent this percent if they bring you a buyer and you have a successful closing. Regardless, this is basically, I know it's very confusing, but where it says single agent and transaction broker, all that's doing is stating what is the relationship of the buyer's agent with their client, with their buyer. What is their relationship? This has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with the brokerage, nothing to do with the commission that you're keeping. All 3 of these here are simply stating, what are you going to pay a buyer's agent? This does divvy up into the category of what relationship the buyer's agent, not you, the buyer's agent has with that buyer. Why this is still in play today, I don't know. Why an agent would want to pay someone differently if they're a transaction broker versus a single agent, I don't know. Greg, do you have any feedback on that?
No, the only thing I say is that the non-representation is always zero. Because if you are not representing the buyer, then you're not getting a commission. But no, transaction and single agent are always the same.
I don't know why they haven't updated that with time, but just so you guys know, because I know that can be confusing. So again, all three of these boxes are just simply stating what are you going to pay a buyer's agent if they bring you a buyer. Buyer's agent only. This non-rep here, Greg puts it in at 0. I usually put it in at 0, or at the most, I'll put it in as $500. So non-rep, what this means is that they've signed a non-brokerage agreement with that buyer, meaning they're not representing that buyer in any capacity. But sometimes this comes into play with someone who, I think I've had this one time, and the transaction didn't actually conspire, we couldn't come to terms, but where the person, their cousin was a realtor, but the individual wanted to negotiate the deal themselves. They wanted to come in and talk and, confirm their terms and do all of that. But the buyer was working with their cousin basically just to get the door open so they can look at properties. So they were basically just driving them around, showing them properties. And then the buyer's agent had no relationship to them. So in that case, they're not working for their client. So I'm not going to pay them 3%, but I'll toss them $500 for opening the door and making it happen. Next section here, showing time. There is a service that you can pay for. I apologize, I don't know how much it costs, where basically it's not automated, but a call center. So somebody can call, they can schedule the appointment. If it's one where you have to contact the owner for approval, they handle all that for you. So basically it's a third party that handles and schedules and tracks all of your showings. As you get busy in your business, it's a very, very awesome thing to have. But until that point, you can simply use showing time, which is a very easy process that I'll go over with you as well. So if ever you've shown properties before, you click on, sometimes it might say use the showing button or the showing time button. You'll click on the showing time button. Some of them will be to where it's probably a vacant property. And so you put in your information, and then it will instantly pop up with instructions. And it says, congratulations, you're approved for the showing. Here's your private notes. Might say lock boxes on the side door, coded lockbox, here's the code, here's the gate code, whatever notes that you need them to know. So that's what you want to put here, is that once the showing is approved, either by you approving it or auto approving it, this is the between realtors conversation of things that you want to make sure that they know before they go to the property. One might just be a courtesy reminder of, hey, please make sure to lock up, turn off lights, and leave the home as you found it. Sometimes it might be, hey, remove shoes in inclement weather. Maybe there's new carpeting. The lockbox is on the side door. Sometimes it might be just that, oh, there's a dog locked in a cage in the laundry room, so they don't freak out. They kind of know it's there. Or, hey, there's a cat. Don't let the cat out, right? Really important stuff like that you want to put in here. Showing instructions based on your client and what their requests are. And again, this is a conversation you're going to have with them at the listing appointment at the end when you're getting the paperwork done. So be as proactive as possible, because it's always embarrassing. You have to go back and ask them 50 questions afterwards. So it might be, call listing agent if you want them to call you directly. Again, this is the agent who's trying to request a showing. Let's say there's some information that's really important you want to make sure that they know, or you want to tell them about, or whatever it is, you want them to call you first directly to schedule that appointment. I'm about keeping life simple and easy. I like using the showing button. They're going to put in a day and time. It's going to notify me, and then I will approve the showing from there. Whatever works for you. If there's a coded lockbox here, you can give them those instructions. Some higher end properties or difficult properties, the listing agent might need to accompany. So you want to make sure that the people know that when they're trying to schedule the appointment. If it's in a subdivision, or if the owner doesn't want a sign, there's no sign, it's nice to check that box off so people know when they're looking at addresses up and down the street that there's not going to be a sign of really paying attention. If it's occupied, if there's a pet on premises, any of these, yours is just vacant. Okay. I would like to do the show time button so I can track, even if it's vacant. I still want to know who was there and when, because I want to go back and ask them for feedback, right? I want to be proactive about this. Hey, Mr. Buyer's agent, thank you so much for showing my property. I really appreciate you taking the time. What kind of feedback or what were your thoughts and what were your buyer's thoughts of our home compared to the other ones that you were looking at? Maybe price, amenities, features. How do we rank? Because that's the ultimate feedback that you're going to get, is because they're looking at the competition, right? They're looking at all the other homes in your area. Mr. Buyer's agent, you're in these homes. How do you feel my home ranks, right? Because this is just more feedback that you can have to go back to your seller in case you need to do something like a price reduction. Or if you're getting constant feedback that it smells like cat, whatever it is, you have that information. You go back to your seller to try to get the property sold, make the adjustments you need to make. Thank you. Lockbox. Okay, so that one's really simple. All right, so here, generally, I'm going to check yes to all of these. And these are boxes that are in your listing agreement. So yes, I went on the internet. Yes. I do want it on all these sites. I want to give it as much exposure as possible. Here, I'm just going to put yes, it does seem a little redundant and silly to put lockup when done, but you would be surprised. Okay, so here, my personal suggestion to you is you guys have amazing tools in our Florida Luxury Realty back office that we provide for you, including beautiful virtual tours that you can create and edit yourself. So for this free automated junk, in my opinion, it just basically takes the first 4 photos, it spins them, and then it says, oh, do you want to add more photos? We can charge you this much money. You guys at Florida Luxury, you guys have all these amazing tools right at your fingertips that don't cost you anything. So once it is live, then you of course have your contract file set up in the back office. Then you can go into the design center, and I want you to copy the link for the virtual tour there and put that in here. Now, do make sure that it is unbranded. Okay, so when it's in the MLS, everything must be unbranded. You cannot have pictures of your sign. You can't have a picture of your business card. It has to be unbranded and fair to everyone. Now, on that note, once your home is live in the MLS, we all know that it automatically syncs to things like Zillow and Trulia, right? Well, what a lot of people don't understand is that you should have a Zillow account, a professional Zillow account. We have a profile. Once you have your listing, you want to go back into that account, and now you want to edit it, right? Because in the MLS, that says you can't be branded, but it doesn't say that in Zillow. And when your people are looking at Zillow, you want to pull them back to you directly. You don't want them clicking that button on the side that goes to 15 other agents that are going to be calling it in 5 minutes. Go back and edit your Zillow listing. Change out the unbranded virtual tour to the branded virtual tour that does have your name, your phone number, and your information. It's also going to pull the information from the MLS, the description. I suggest you go in there in the beginning of that description, put in there all capital letters with some stars and asterisks, and say, for direct information, contact or for whatever, call the listing agent directly. My name, my phone number, my branding, right? Because I can go back and do that, and I have that control. With my photos, I might go back and add additional photos like my business card, my company logo, different things like that. Because now I can edit that and I can control that, and I can try to feed as many leads back to me as possible. A little nugget. Okay, public remarks. This is where you're going to put your description. For people like me who are very detailed, I love to write a story. I love to build emotional value in a property. I use lots of great words like, cozying up with a good book next to the fireplace. The chef in your family will love this kitchen. I like to build that emotional value to the property. I use a lot of words. So be sure to just be aware of your word count. I don't suggest, I'm not a fan, and you always hear people complain about writing descriptions in all capital letters. Just don't be that guy. That's really hard to read. Then also, once you write your description, you want to copy and paste that as well in the Spanish remarks. If you do get some Spanish buyers, there are a number of agents within our organization that do speak Spanish fluently. So good idea to speak to your brokers and start a relationship with one of those individuals that you can refer business to if you like. Realtor Comments. Okay, so this is broker to broker, realtor to realtor. This is information that you want to put in here, like I'm going to suggest a blanketed statement that you put on all your listings, which we just talked about the other day. So I might put, depending on the client, easy show, please give at least, please give at least a 2-hour notice if possible. And then in here, here's kind of a blanketed statement I like to put in every listing, which is sold as is for seller. No, I spelled that wrong. I missed it. Sold as is for seller convenience. All info per owner and deemed correct. Because again, everything is seller says. Seller says it's a new roof. Seller says the water heater is 5 years old. Another suggestion I'm going to make to you guys, again, it's all about CYA, is in the seller's property disclosure. It's going to ask them a series of questions, yes, no, or I don't know about the condition of the property. In the back, there's all these additional lines. So in case they said, yes, something is not working, or yes, there was a problem, they can clearly identify it and explain it. But what I suggest to my owners to put in their positive things about the property as well. So new roof in 2017, new water heater in 2018, new carpet in 2018, 2 wine coolers to convey with the property, things like that. Because this way, again, it just kind of gives you justification at the end of the day to say, well, this is all information per the owner in case you have a home inspection and there's a little bit of a conflict in there. You know, just everything should be seller says. Also, I've had situations to where I had the owners put in the things that were going to be included in the property, such as, you know, washer and dryer, wine coolers, things like that, ice makers. And I've had situations in the past where in the beginning of the listing, the owners are willing to give everything away with the property, like, oh, for the right price, they can keep that, right? And so we confirm that information. Then at closing, they're like, well, you know, I really would like to keep these wine coolers. They're technically not an attachment. Okay, well, sorry, we have in the seller's disclosure that you were including those with the property. So again, just try to be proactive about as much as you can. So sold as is for seller convenience, all info per owner deemed correct. Buyer to do verify all info, including room sizes, ETC, grade, etc. ETC.
ETC. Yeah.
ETC. Right. So it's just kind of a little extra, you know, cover your butt protection. Also, if there's anything like, you know, it's an elderly couple and they have to confer with family in another state, you might want to put a note in there about please give 2 days response time, you know, just so that they're aware, you know, of the situation, what's going on. Driving directions, here I usually just kind of Google, put in the address, and then I start it from a point of something that's convenient, easy. So for our area here, if it's something that's close to the Premium Outlet Mall, I would do directions from the Premium Outlet Mall. From the Premium Outlet Mall, turn west on State Road 54, go 0.25 miles. Turn right on this street, go 0.3 miles. Because again, you want people to have as easy access to the property as possible. Okay. All right. So once we have all that information put in here, we are going to, if you know you're not done, you want to do this. You want to hit save as incomplete. Okay, this is going to save the listing. You can go back to it later. If you've done your back and forth, you find like, okay, hold on to your butts. Let's make this sucker go live. When you get to that point, you're going to click submit listing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and submit listing. I know it's not correct. Here's what's going to happen. And usually this will happen with you the first couple of times because you always miss a little something. So here, room sizes came up as a red flag, literally a red exclamation point. It's going to tell me what I'm missing. Also, if you're looking at it and you're not quite sure exactly what it wants from you, there's this little words in red down here. It says, these are the errors on the input. Click here to view them. This will literally tell you. So the length is missing, the width is missing, driving directions is missing. This will kind of help to guide you in a little bit more of what you are specifically missing. And then also you can click on the little red dot and it will tell you there as well. So before we can make this live, we would have to go back and put in that information. Community. So this here you do have to. And then once you do clear it, so that should clear that. Oops, no, what else is in Oh, see, even though this wasn't in yellow before, remember? It came back and it flagged this, so just some little tricks. And the same thing on here, you'll want to put this information in here too. I'm gonna put this back to no, just to see if that is what was flagging it, but I doubt it. It's probably this. So breeds allowed, pets allowed.
Yeah.
Lease, and I'm just gonna put it. No minimum years of ownership. Okay, so this just. All right, so now that red exclamation point went away because I cleared all those fields. So once all your fields are cleared here, you can go ahead and hit submit. But right now what we want to do, because we still need to go back, we need to add photos, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and just hit save as incomplete. Now you are going to be given an MLS number right here as you're just writing that down somewhere. And here's a way too that you can always go back right before you're ready to make it go live. You want to double check, make sure you haven't missed anything. Sometimes it's actually easier to look at it in its natural form as if you're looking at an MLS sheet. So what I'm going to do now, just open that window. I'm going to put in this MLS number. And then now here it is in what I call a traditional form. So we can kind of scan through each of these sections, each of these categories, make sure everything looks accurate, you're not missing anything. You can even save this as a PDF copy, shoot it over to your seller and have them approve it as well prior to it going live, or you can just send them the link after it's live and say, please review this, let me know if you need to make any changes. And then here you see status is as incomplete. Now let's say I say this is incomplete. Now I want to go back and I need to make some changes to it. I need to add some more information. I'm going to go back to AddEdit. You're going to now have a drop down for the list of your properties. We'll select the property. And now these are your options. So I can actually go ahead and do manage photos. I can go ahead and you can put in multiple photos at the same time. You can go ahead and select them all. It will populate everything in there. And then you can also go back and edit and rearrange them, which I'll show you. Also in there too, it said manage attachments. So this is where you want to upload, be as effective as possible, be proactive, because when people are writing an offer, what's usually one of the first things they're going to ask you is who's your title company and do you have disclosures? So be prepared with all that. Even if you have your client is able to provide you with the HOA information, like the rules, regulations, things like that, upload that, put that in there, have it already and available, because you want that buyer to be an educated decision as strongly as possible when they first submit an offer, right? So you want them to know everything about the property before they make that offer so you can be as strong as possible moving forward. All right, so let's say these are my photos. I want to rearrange these. If you hover your mouse over the top of it where it says slot 2, you get this little plus sign. You can only grab it when you have that plus sign. So I can grab this plus sign and I can rearrange my photos however I want. For my Florida Luxury agents, I'm sad to say that I do not see nearly as many 4-in-1 photos as we should have. You guys, those 4-in-1 photos, I don't know if you understand how powerful they are. You're going to probably double your amount of clicks from instead of having what I call your traditional front door photo that everyone has. But by putting in this 4-in-1 photo, which really makes it a unique piece and it makes it stand out, creates a lot of additional cross-selling opportunities as well. So that would be under my marketing, or you can also go to Ask Luxy, 4-in-1 photo. And this is how easy it is, you guys. You can put in the MLS number and I believe it will populate the photos for you. Or if you have them saved on your computer, it tells you the order, 1, 2, 3, 4. You select the 4 photos that you want. I'm just going to dummy this in real quick. Upload, and it does all the work for you guys. It's that simple. It takes 2 seconds, and it's going to create a beautiful. And you want this to be your primary photo, so it's going to be the first photo. Some of these websites, it's not in our control, but they only might generally show either one photo or some of them might generate only the first 4 photos. So kind of be a little mindful of that when you're putting that together. So you guys, that's how easy it is. There's no reason why you should not have this on every single one of your listings. Now, be mindful as well that one of these does need to be the front door photo. Generally, the primary one here needs to be the front door photo, and then pick the 3 best ones. If you're kind of polishing a turd of a listing, it's not a bad idea where you can put maybe the sign. There's a nice neighborhood sign, maybe a picture of the community pool, different things like that to kind of be a little creative with it. So let's say I have my 4 photos in here. I'm ready to save this. I'm just going to hit certify and save. And again, you are confirming these are your photos. Do not go into the MLS and copy other people's photos. That's not cool. Plus complaints against you. So manage attachments. This is where if we have the seller's disclosure, additional documents like that, you just kind of name it, you upload the file, and then you actually sign it. Why has both of those? I don't know, but and that's essentially it. Like I said, when you're ready, what else was I going to show you? Greg, any other little tidbits or things that you can think of?
No, you pretty well covered it.
All right. Yeah, and that was kind of the point of this class. So hopefully I was able to kind of give you guys a nice little demonstration of what to expect when inputting a listing, kind of giving you some tips on being proactive while you're in the listing agreement or in the listing appointment, getting the paperwork signed, some things to be aware of information that you're going to need to know. So kind of ask that. It makes you look like a professional, makes you stand out, that you know what you're doing, especially when you're asking these unique questions. Any questions from anyone online? No? Okay, awesome. All right, you guys, again, hopefully this was helpful for you. Make it a beautiful day, and listings. Go get them, guys. Take care. Hey everyone, and welcome back. I apologize. There was a little piece that I wanted to show you guys, which would be the next step after you make the listing go live, which is to go back in and update your or your showing button, you might be referred to as. So I want to show you how to set that up really quick so you guys have a complete package that you can hop in here confidently and make a listing active. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so for once we have the listing live, then we want to make sure that we go back and we set it up so that it's set up in showing time appropriate to how the client would like the property to be shown. So we're going to go to AddEdit. We're going to select a listing. I'm just going to go with this one. Okay. Now, once a property is active and we go back into AddEdit, we can make changes. Your screen's going to look a little different. It's going to look like this. So if we wanted to go back into where we were first doing our input, where it said pool, interior, exterior, realtor, all those little tabs at the top, this is where we would do that. Right here, where it says AddEdit listing fields, which is what we of course, once your property goes pending, if you're going to take it off the market, it sells, all that will be right here. Also, generally, when we do a brand new listing, we also want to schedule one of our mega open houses for the first Saturday that it's on the market, and it's going to get its most attention and exposure while it's a hot new property. I'll go ahead and show you this really quick as well. Now, again, it must be active, I believe, before we'll let you put this in here. So here you'll go in, your options are going to be to do office only, MLS or public. You'd want to make that public. The date of your open house, start time, end time, active, you want to select yes. Refreshments, I would just type in yes. Normally we're going to have bottles of water, maybe soda, things like that. So just put yes here. And then I don't really like to leave a whole lot of things blank because generally the more fields you have filled in, the more attention it's going to get. So under open house remarks, you can put something like motivated seller, price just reduced, or price adjusted. Also, I just put in there, come by and say hi, right? Just a little bit of information. You'll go ahead and hit submit, and then now that will show up on your property. It will also show up automatically in Zillow and Trulia and begin the marketing of that as soon as possible. Now let's go back to showing time. Manage photos, we went over that. Manage attachments, that's where you can put your seller's disclosure, things like that. And then under here, configure showing time. How do you want the property to be viewed by other agents? When this first pops up, it's usually going to have a box where it asks you to set up your profile. Make sure your contact information is correct. So we'll start from the top here. So allow showing agents to request appointments online. Yes. Showing instructions. This typically defaults to view instructions only. This is if it's something like a vacant property, you want it to be kind of like a go and show where it just automatically approves them, but gives them any specific instructions that you want them to have. I personally like to, even if it is a vacant home, I like to do appointment required. You can have it set again to automatically accept, but I want to make sure they're putting in their information and I'm able to go back and follow up with them. And I also want to know about when that agent is going to be there at the property. So if there are any issues, let's say a second showing comes in, we know who was there first and who to potentially go back to if we have any questions about anything. Feedback, showing time template, you can adjust that if you wish. Is this listing agent accompanied? No. This is where your contact information will be. How would you like to receive notifications of showings? I set it up so that it's text message and email as well. Advanced showings. This is where you're going to put in your required lead time. Depending, if you have kids, dogs, things like that, they might want at least a minimum of a 4-hour notice or a 2-hour notice or maybe a 24-hour notice. That's where you're going to put this in here. So required is definitely need a minimum of 2 hours required to show, meaning that if they're trying to schedule an appointment within 2 hours or a shorter time than 2 hours, it's not going to allow that showing. And then suggested portion for whatever you want in there. Maximum appointment length. If the property is owner occupied and they're typically home during the day and it's a little bit of a hassle for them to get in and out of the property, I usually want that window to be, maybe an hour, with the understanding that, sometimes an agent might be out showing 5 or 6 properties. They don't know exactly, how long it's going to be before they get there. So they might request a showing to say between 1 and 2 o'clock. Okay. If it's something where it's a little bit more flexibility, you can adjust that appropriately, or if you need something a little bit tighter. But just keep in mind though, when having the conversations with your seller, that you do want to be as flexible with this as possible, because you do want to get them in the door so they can look at your home, fall in love, and get it sold. If you put something like a 15-minute window in there, that's going to be really hard, because it's, when you're showing 5 or 6 properties, it can be very difficult to narrow down that time frame. Next, allow overlapping showings. I select yes on this because what does that do? You end up with 2 agents showing the property at the same time. Is that going to build demand for the property? Is that going to build kind of a buyer frenzy that, oh wow, this house is getting a lot of attention. If we like it, we better hurry up and make an offer. What else? Access details. How can the agent access the home? Generally, you're going to have a lockbox, an electronic lockbox on there. Let's see, which would be a super iBox. You can put this information in here. It's if you have a CVS code set up on that, which would be an additional code besides their PIN code. If there is an alarm, you definitely want to note that, as well as in those comments. You can have it to where they contact you directly to get that information, or you can again put that in that box here for what they will see once the showing is confirmed. Typing your showing instructions. This usually will copy the data that I had put in the listing input when we created that little box and put in there to remove shoes or turn off lights, provide feedback, lock boxes on the side door. Here's the lockbox code. Here's the gate code. Whatever information they need. Don't let the cat out. Whatever pertinent information is what you want to put there. What else? Directions. Your directions will copy over as well. And it's as simple as that. Then we go ahead and hit Save Changes, and that will go ahead and input everything in for you. So once your listing is live, just remember to go back and do this right away. Again, if it is just a go and show, you don't care. You just want to know when they're going in there. They don't need approval. You'll just go ahead and click View Instructions Only. With the appointment required, what happens is you're going to get a text message or an email based on how you set it up, or both. And it's going to say who the agent is that's going to that property, the date, the time period of which they'll be there. And then there's a spot in there for the agent to put any notes. They typically don't. And then on your option pad, you'll have the option to approve it decline it or suggest another time. So if that time does not work for your client, your seller, you can go ahead and suggest, well, 1 to 2 won't work, but what about 2 to 3? Okay, and then if they accept that, it will accept that and send them the instructions. So hopefully you guys should be completely ready to go out there and get a listing and make it live. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us or use the awesome chat button in the back office. All right, you guys, take care.